Hello and welcome to episode 179 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is March 27th, 2023. Today I'm wearing two fairly old pieces. I knit and crochet the shawl in 2014, which makes it 9 years old. And the pullover I crocheted sometime before 2009, so probably or maybe even back in 2006, I don't remember. Anyway, let's start with the shawl. This is a mix of knitting and crochet, and the pattern or the idea for the pullover comes from this book. It's called Maschenzauber, which sort of means stitches, witchery or witchcraft. No, Zauber is more like wizardry. I think that's the word. So it's by Tina Solheim, and I have 3 of her books, and I love them all. The things are usually very beautiful, very often quite crazy, very often hard to make. So I haven't really knit and crocheted a lot of her things yet, but I keep dreaming of making more of her stuff. But I've actually made 2 of those shawls already. And the book has them in different colorways with different patterns and different materials. And and I just love the idea of using different yarns and different stitch patterns and even different techniques like knitting and crochet. And the first one I made was actually made of leftovers. It was all blues and greens and turquoise colors. But this one is mostly made of yarns that I've bought. So for quite a long time, I would buy odd balls of black or silver or black glitter yarn, sparkly yarn. And then I used all those different skeins, different balls of yarn and put this together. Some of them are leftover yarn like this. I started crocheting a top. I never finished it. The alpaca that I used for the short edges, I knit a cardigan. So that was some leftover yarn. And this yarn at the edge, this is a mohair, sparkly mohair yarn. I crocheted another shawl. So I'm pretty sure that was left over from that. But for example, this yarn, the black glitter yarn here, and also this yarn that I used for this crochet bit, it's black and it has just a little like black sparkle in it. Those were special balls of yarn that I picked up somewhere and put into this shawl. So it's worked in this direction, so not the usual way of knitting a scarf or a shawl, but it gives these long stripes that I really like. And and then the ends, there's a crochet edge on the short ends. And basically you can do what you want. You can use any yarn you want, you can use any pattern you want. But sometimes if you can just do whatever you want, I don't know what to do. So I'm really happy with these patterns, so I can sort of follow them. And then I would change things wherever I feel like changing them. But still it gives me something to start with. It gives me a number of stitches to start with. And then I just mix and match things the way I like. So that's that. And the pullover is a crochet pullover. And I remember crocheting that before I started working for the yarn shop that I used to work with. And I bought the yarn and the pattern at that shop. And I remember going home and then crocheting the first motif. And these are like, this is one motif and there's lots and lots of these motifs. And the pattern says to crochet them together, but it doesn't explain how to do that. So I thought about it and I didn't know how it worked. So I went to the shop and asked the people there, how do I do that? And they didn't know. So I went back home and I kept thinking about it until one day I realized how it could be done. So I started crocheting the motifs together, and then once they were put together, you crochet those little things afterwards. So this has about 1 million ends that are woven in, and that keep coming out. So at first I did these slightly bigger motifs, and then afterwards I would do the little ones. And I remember that I went back to the shop and I told them how it's done. So I said, if another customer asks you, this is how it's done, so you can teach them. So there is no edging. Oh yes, there is an edging. So I must have crocheted something around the edges once I was done. But otherwise, these are very straight pieces. So this was just a rectangle, and the sleeves also is just, is it 3 motifs wide? I think so. But it's just crocheted very straight. And just from wearing it, they sort of form these bell-shaped sleeves that I really like. The pattern called for cotton yarn. And I remember I didn't want to use the cotton because I was afraid it would zag, it would just grow, it would just get bigger and bigger. So I used a microfiber yarn, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. It has held up. I've had this pullover for a really long time. I'm not wearing it a whole lot, but I do wear it regularly, so it's quite okay. But today I think I will use the cotton yarn and just make sure to block the swatch that I made, to make sure it couldn't grow more than what I blocked out of it. So yeah, but I don't think I'll do the same pattern again because it was a lot of work. Yeah, but I still like it. I still wear it, and I just love the combination of red and black. So that's what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have one finished object, and I don't have a new cast on. I'm quite happy. I'm quite proud of myself. Let's see how long that lasts. So my finished object will not come as a surprise to anyone. I certainly finished my Sock Madness socks. So these are the Celtic rain socks, the round 2 pattern for this year's Sock Madness. Sock Madness is a speed knitting competition for knitting socks. And this is a very, very beautiful asymmetric pattern. So on the top of the foot, there's this cable pattern that's slightly different from right to left, but you can't really tell. But then once you finish the heel and you start the leg, the pattern shifts so that you have most of the pattern on one side and hardly any pattern on this side. I think it's funny that there's just this one bead that's on this side, which makes it really sweet. But it makes it very much a left and a right sock. You can choose how you want to wear them. I'm really happy with the beads that I picked. I think they look really nice with this yarn, and I think they were visible enough for the moderators of the Sock Madness to see them. With some of the socks that they had to check, they must have asked for more pictures because it's really hard to see them, and they have to make sure that we got everything right. Once the 2 charts were done, there was a little bit of ribbing, and then the stitches were crocheted off. It was a different way of crocheting stitches off. It's probably not my favorite way of doing things, but it is very, very stretchy, so it's a good thing for socks. The socks are really big. They are German size 40-41. I wear a size 37.5, so they are way too big for me. They are the minimum requirement size, and I will find somebody to give them to. I already have someone in mind who has size 40 shoes, so I think they will fit her, and I think she will like them, but later. For now, I want to collect all the socks that I knit during the Sock Madness and maybe do a special video just for the Sock Madness socks that I do this year. I did that 2 years ago, but last year I think I didn't knit quite as many socks because I dropped out earlier than 2 years ago. And also I gave some of the socks away, so I couldn't do the complete video with all the Sock Madness socks. So this year I'm trying to hold on to them a bit longer. So that's the finished objects. Then on to works in progress. And the first sock that I'm going to show you in works in progress is one of the bonus patterns that we get for the Sock Madness. So with every round that you finish your socks within the time frame, it doesn't matter if you go on to the next round or not, but if you finish your socks, you get access to the bonus pattern. And this was the bonus pattern for the first round. The pattern is called Meander Socks, and it has this beautiful lace pattern. It will be different for the left and the right sock, and it has a very interesting heel flap pattern that really sort of transitions into the pattern very beautifully. So that's really cleverly done. And with all the cross stitches, it's just a bit tighter here, so they really sit on the foot very nicely. I'm knitting these socks for my sister, and she just tried it on before I started recording, and they fit her, and she's really happy and looking forward to getting them after I've done the video with all the Sock Madness socks. And the yarn I'm using for this is one of the new colors by Opal. It's out of their series Country. And today I finally remembered to bring all the other colors so I can show them to you. So this is a light gray with just a hint of light blue, my sister's favorite color in this series. Then there's this darker blue that I've almost sold out already. It's very nice. Then there's a dark gray with a little bit of brown. And my favorite colors, I think, are the turquoise, of course, with a bit of purple, oops, and the pink colorway. So I really love to do something in that color for myself. Don't know what yet. And then there are three colors, so this is a yellow, an orange, and a red, and I think they look nice together, but also by themselves they are very nice color mixes. So I think the red was in the subscription, and I think, was it the yellow? I think two of those colors were in the abo, in the subscription that you can do with Opal. So we've seen them before. But this is the whole series. It's the last series that was published by Opal. So if you have a shop that sells Opal yarns, you should probably be able to get some of those colors. Okay, that's that. Then the other sock, the only other sock that I have on the needles right now are the neon pink socks that I started because I got this beautiful new book. I talk a lot about that book in the last video, so if you haven't seen that and you're interested in the book, have a look at that. And I finished the leg of the sock, and I can now start the heel, and it has this very nice, it's not very lacy, but it's a sort of lace pattern combined with some cables. And that's the front of the sock, and the back is just these stripes with the knit stitches knit through the back loop and some purl stitches in between. And this pattern will carry through the heel, but it's not a heel flap, it's a heel with short rows. So the short rows, so that pattern will sort of slowly disappear. I think that looks really interesting too. I can't wait to start with the heel. So that's all the socks I'm knitting at the moment. I will probably not start another pair until the next round of the Sock Madness begins, as I have I told you that I got a place for the third round? So I'm still in the competition. So that means as soon as the next pattern drops, which probably won't be before next Saturday, that's when the 2 weeks are up for the second round. But I do want to keep some needles free to start that sock straight away. But there's another project I'm doing on double pointed needles, and that's the second gnome out of the Grimblewoods collection by Sarah Shearer. And this is Neil of Grimblewoods, and I haven't stuffed him yet because I was I was away from home for the weekend and I didn't bring any stuffing, and I just stuffed the yarn that I'm using at the moment into him just so you can see what he's going to look like. So I decided to knit all the gnomes and the mushroom and the little cottage out of the same colorways and using the 6-ply yarn. So they're all a bit bigger than they're supposed to be. But I really like him, and I'm using fewer colors than she calls for. I think the set is supposed to be knit with 6 colors and I only have 5. So I should have had a color change down here, but I think it's okay, and I'm really happy with the way he looks. So he should be done next week, and maybe I'll have started the next one of the collection. We'll see about that. So then what's next? I finally took the time to continue knitting on the little dinosaur skeleton loop scarf that I'm working on. And that's my first proper double knitting project ever. And this was the first square that I knit. So this is the dinosaur skeleton on this side, and then this is the side where it looks more like bones. And then I did the next one in those colors. So I finally finished the skeleton, and then this is the side with the bones. And then the third square will have those 2 colors, the dark blue and the light blue. And then I'll have 3 dinosaurs chasing after each other around my cousin's son's neck. So that's the plan. The only reason I didn't cast it off was that I didn't bring the first square with me, so I wasn't quite sure how many rows I had knit on top of the head, because I want them to be the same height. So I stopped knitting, and I think I have to knit 1 more row, and then I think I'll knit 1 row with the 1 color and then do a sewn bind off with the other color, and then it should be the same height as this. And if it's just 1 row difference, I won't mind. If it's more than that, I will probably go back and do it properly. Yeah, so second one almost done, and then I'll have to start the third square, and then at some point this will be done. Okay, the next 2 projects are my big projects, my pullover and my cardigan. I'll start with the cardigan. I'm knitting that out of the Noro Silk Garden Solo. So it's just basically the blue. The only color change in the yarn, I think, is from the different fibers that are in the yarn. So this is mostly mohair and silk and a little bit of wool. And I had started with the sleeves, so they were done. And I've added some more pattern repeats on the front and back. And this is all I have left from this ball of yarn. And I think it is now long enough for me as a jacket. It's a bit shorter than the sleeves, but that's okay. It won't be a very long cardigan, but I knew it wasn't going to be very long because I only had the 10 balls. And now I have to figure out how many stitches I want to keep under the arm, and then I'll have to make sure that the pattern sort of fits together when I put all the stitches on one needle. And I have decided to keep one of those knit stitches sort of as the raglan line, and then decrease within the purl stitches next to the, I'll probably leave 1 purl stitch on each side and then use the second, because there's always 2 purl stitches, and then probably use the other purl stitch to decrease my stitches. And I will probably just have to start doing, I could do a gauge swatch. I was thinking about that, but I think I'm too lazy. We'll see. If I have all the stitches on the needle and I don't like it, it'll be a lot more work undoing what I've done. So that sort of means a gauge swatch could be a good idea, but we'll see. If I feel bold, I'll just go ahead and start everything. Maybe I'll set everything up and then decide if I need a gauge swatch or whether I'm sure this is going to look nice. I'll let you know next week. The pullover I am knitting is this colorwork yoke pullover. I'll show you the book again next week because I'm pretty sure this pullover will be done next week. I knit up all the yarn I had left from, I had 150 gram ball of yarn for the sleeves, and that leftover bit I think was this bit with the purple in the front, and then I had another ball of yarn that I used for the yoke, and the rest of that went down here. And I've tried it on before I started filming, and I'm really happy with the length. And because I don't want to start another ball of yarn, I decided to use the leftover yarn that I have in this color to do the ribbing down here. So I think that should look quite nice, to have the same color up here and down here. And the sleeves are different, but that's okay, I don't mind. The sleeves have the pattern, the front and back won't have a pattern, so everything's going to be a bit different. I really think it's so fascinating how the purple is on this side only, and then it's on the back only. And then with the last bit of yarn that I had, it sort of moved from over here all the way to over here. So it's quite crazy. It's quite interesting. Yeah, but really happy. It was fairly cold today, so I could have worn this. Probably by the time it's all done, it's going to get warm. But that's okay. My shop's always cold, so I'll probably be able to wear it in here. So these are the two sweaters, so to speak, that I'm knitting. Then on to the shawls that I have on the needles. And these are two Stephen West patterns. And I think I always started with a Pierre shawl. I'm knitting that out of the Wolldackel DK weight yarn. And last week I think I had started with this, with those triangles, and I finished the triangles, and then I made a mistake because the pattern said to repeat the pattern that I knit here, but I was only supposed to repeat 10 rows. But I did 12 rows. And the problem is that in the 11th row, there are increases that are supposed to be done in this row, but you're not supposed to do them here. But I only realized that when I was already knitting row 12, so I wasn't willing to go back all those stitches. So now I have a few stitches too many, but it's a shawl, it doesn't matter. It's just a bit bigger then, so that's fine. So now I'm repeating this pattern, and then I'm supposed to knit the rip pattern in one color, but I don't really want to go straight into the one color yet. So I have decided, instead of doing the rip pattern, I'm going to repeat the seat stitch bit, and I will keep using both colors. By the way, I finished with the first skein of the light color, and I've added in the second one. And because I had to add this in anyway, I want to keep using it a bit longer. And this is still the first one of the dark color. But I'm pretty sure after I finish the two color bit, I want to do the last pattern. It's the wavy pattern that's only done at the very edge. And I want to do that only with the dark color. And because that's going to be a lot of stitches and several rows, I'm pretty sure I will have to start the other blue skein as well, but that's okay. But I think this should make for a really nice looking shawl. My sister has finished hers, knit out of alpaca, and it's so beautiful. She's wearing it all the time. So that's really nice. And my friend who's knitting the same pattern, she's about to start the last pattern. So they're both quicker than I am. Which is okay, it's not a competition. It's just a tiny little knit along. The other shawl we are knitting is the Fragmentation Shawl by Stephen West, and I'm using this color out of the Opal Beauty series. And yes, this is the second ball of yarn that I have added into the shawl. And yes, I have finished the second wedge. So it started off with this wedge, and instead of changing colors every 14 rows, I just kept knitting this color, so the stripes keep getting smaller. But as that happens in every wedge, it's works out really nicely, I think. And then I started the third wedge, and now I have all three colors that are in the yarn next to each other. And I'm really happy with the second and third stripe. They even line up. They line up even better than with the first and second. But now I get this effect that's in the original as well, that you have like these steps 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And I'm really, really happy with that. So originally I hadn't realized that the white was going to line up, but I think I quite like that. Even though I hadn't expected that, I'm quite happy with that. And yeah, really looking forward to continuing this. And I calculated that I'm going to need more than 3 of those balls, so there's quite a lot of knitting still to be done. But you never have too many stitches on the needle, so every wedge grows fairly quickly, which sort of makes it a very motivating piece of knitting. And with every wedge that you finish, you have this feeling of, oh, I finished something. And then you start the next one with just a few stitches and it grows so quickly. And it's a very interesting thing. The next pattern in the ebook by Stephen West has come out. So it's, I forgot the name of the pattern, but it's quite close to that one. But instead of having straight lines that you knit with every wedge, you have like these arrows or V's. I don't know which way they knit it, but in the end it sort of ends up with a zigzag like that. So it looks a bit like the there's a very, very famous free pattern on Ravelry that sort of everybody has knitted, Revontuli. So it sort of looks a bit like the Revontuli, only with the color working up differently. So that's the main change. It looks really nice, but right now, what with the Fragmentation Shawl, I'm probably not going to start that one. Maybe I'll do it some other time. We'll see. So those are the 2 shawls that I am knitting. Then on to the crochet projects. And I crocheted a lot more than last week, the last 2 weeks, at least with one of the projects. And that's the Elements Crochet Along. And I put in quite a bit of work into that. And I'm still so happy with it. It does really take quite a lot of work, and you have to concentrate and you have to look at it. And I stopped after half a round this time. I usually try to finish a round, but I was just getting too tired. And I thought maybe it's quite interesting to see. So this is what it looks like while I was crocheting the grey. And this is what it looks like after I crochet the blue. And it's just a mix of either single crochet and double crochet, or double crochet and trebles. And but only changing those 2 stitches, you can get this beautiful pattern. So I think last time those blue things had met, and now they've sort of disappeared, and the grey things have already met, and are they going to disappear now? Probably, I don't know. But I think after I finish the next round, there's only 5 more rounds to go. So this is quite close to being done, even though the rounds are really long now. It doesn't mean I'll finish it quickly, but yeah, I'm really happy to be getting there. And I was wondering whether I could do a second one of these with the same yarn and maybe combine it with a different color, like a pure white maybe. But this is, at the moment, it's 50 something grams, I think 54. So with the last couple of rounds, I may go below the 50 grams, so it wouldn't be enough. So I don't know. And with this yarn, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to finish the whole thing with this yarn. So maybe for the last grey round or last 2 grey rounds, I'll have to improvise and use a different yarn. We'll see about that. Maybe I can tell you next week. And the last project, as usual, my beautiful alpaca lace granny square. I crocheted 2 rounds, so it's more than I did last week, but still it's not a whole lot. I might have done more if I had packed the right yarn, but I forgot to pack the 3rd color, so I only had the 2 with me, and I did those 2 rounds, and yeah, but really enjoying this and looking forward to someday wearing it as a triangular double layer shawl, or maybe I can do like this, and I can wear it like a shawl, or I can wear it as a blanket, or use it as a blanket when I'm sitting somewhere. I don't know. I just know I love it. I will keep working on it until it's someday big enough. Yeah, so I think that's everything I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!